Throughout history, love and marriage have taken countless forms, some tender, others terrifying, and many outright bizarre. In the distant echoes of time, marriage wasn't always about love. It was about alliances, power, family honor, and often superstition. From sacred rituals to strange sacrifices, humanity's path to matrimony has been anything but ordinary. In today's video, we explore the strangest marriage customs from ancient civilizations. From Egypt's royal incest to Spartan abductions and the eerie silence of Mayan rituals, you're about to witness the most curious and bewildering wedding traditions the ancient world had to offer. In ancient Egypt, love was often sacrificed at the altar of power. For pharaohs and royal families, maintaining divine bloodlines was paramount. That meant royal siblings often married one another. The famous Cleopatra VII, for instance, was married to both of her brothers at different times. This wasn't seen as taboo. It was believed that pharaohs were living gods, and divine blood could not be diluted. But marriage customs in Egypt weren't confined to royalty. Commoners practiced monogamy, but contracts were detailed and legally binding. These contracts included conditions like. And yet, amid all the paperwork and protocol, one of the strangest beliefs was that marriage needed no ceremony. A man and woman could be considered married simply by living together with mutual agreement. In the militaristic society of Sparta, strength and simplicity were valued above all, even marriage. When a Spartan man was ready to marry, he would literally kidnap his bride. The girl would have her head shaved, be dressed in male clothing, and wait in a dark room. The groom would then sneak in, consummate the union, and leave. They would continue this secret rendezvous for some time, sometimes even after they were officially married. It was believed this strange ritual helped maintain a man's warrior discipline, as full cohabitation was only allowed after a certain age. Ancient Babylon, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates, had one of the most peculiar marriage markets in human history. According to Herodotus, every year in certain Babylonian towns, eligible young women were auctioned off to the highest bidder. But this wasn't necessarily cruel. It was organized to match beautiful women with wealthy men and allow poorer men to marry less attractive women. The proceeds from selling the more attractive women were used as dowries for the less desired brides. In ancient China, the dead were not always left alone. A rare but haunting tradition was the ghost marriage. If a young man or woman died unmarried, families might arrange for them to wed a deceased partner in the afterlife. Sometimes, they'd bury effigies or symbolic items, while in more disturbing cases, they would exhume corpses and conduct full wedding ceremonies for the deceased. Ancient India had a tapestry of customs, among them the remarkable practice of swayamvara, a bride's right to choose her husband. 6. The Mayans, silence, blood, and astrology narrator. The ancient Maya believed deeply in the stars, and marriage was no exception. Unions were often arranged by astrologers and involved detailed charts predicting compatibility based on birth dates. Marriages were not emotional events. They were sacred contracts between families and deities. During the ceremony, the bride and groom might remain silent throughout, representing humility before the gods. In some rituals, self-bloodletting was involved, piercing tongues or genitals as offerings to ensure fertility and divine blessing. Visual cues, star charts, jade ornaments, sacred temples. Silence, pain, and cosmic alignment. It was love the Mayan way. 7. The Hittites, marriage by combat and ritual purity narrator. In Anatolia, the Hittites had a militaristic yet mystical culture. One of their stranger customs involved bride capture, not always literal, but symbolic of dominance. The groom would sometimes engage in a mock battle or ritual test to prove his worth. Purity rites involving sacred water and oaths were mandatory, and a failed ritual could dissolve the match. Visual cues, ancient clay tablets, warriors in bronze, ceremonial fountains. These customs were tightly woven into law. Marriage wasn't just a private affair, but a state matter with divine oversight. 8. The Hebrews' contracts, veils, and surprise bride's narrator. In ancient Hebrew culture, marriage was a legally binding contract between families, signed, sealed, and witnessed. One of the most curious episodes in Hebrew history is the biblical story of Jacob, who intended to marry Rachel but was tricked into marrying her sister, Leah, because the bride was veiled during the ceremony. Visual cues, desert tents, scrolls being signed, veiled women. Marriage was a deeply communal event, often celebrated with week-long feasts. Virginity was so important that a blood-stained cloth was kept as evidence on the wedding night. 9. The Aztecs, omens, and rituals of nightfall narrator. In Aztec civilization, marriages were arranged with consultation from astrologers and priests. The wedding took place at night, under the guidance of celestial symbols. The bride would be carried on the back of an old woman, symbolizing the passage from childhood to womanhood. Once at the groom's house, the couple would have their garments tied together to signify unity. Visual cues, nighttime fires, obsidian jewelry, ceremonial dances. Offerings were made to the gods, and the couple was required to fast and abstain before the ceremony. Only then were they considered worthy of each other and the gods' favor. 10. The Celts, hand fasting and trial marriages narrator. The ancient Celts had a custom known as hand fasting, a symbolic binding of the couple's hands with ribbons or cloth. This ceremony could signify a trial marriage, lasting a year and a day. If after that time the couple wished to separate, they could part ways with no shame. Visual cues, forest weddings, braided ribbons, druidic rites. It was a remarkably progressive system for its time. Consent was crucial, and fertility was celebrated as a natural part of the union, not hidden or shamed.